And welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between. It is the most wonderful time of the year. No, we're not talking about Christmas. It is August, which means it is time for our annual countdown to opening day kickoff here with the High Low Sports podcast, where we will break down every single team's record, every, division by division, all the way down until we get to our playoffs and Super Bowl predictions right before the start of the season. Kelsey and I have picked every single game of the regular season to figure out what records we come out with. So there's no game left unturned for better and for worse. For some surprises that even surprised us, we can't wait to get into this. DJ joined as always by my co-host Kelsey as we are. It's that month stretch where we are going to have a lot of fun, and we're here to something. We to quote Step Brothers, we're here to blank stuff up. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. I know when I was doing this, I think I'd second guess myself 100 times, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? Let's not do that."
Mm.
So I might have been a little too generous. I might not have been to some teams. I don't know. I always feel so weird when I make these picks. I always get one team completely wrong. Last year was the Cowboys. Year before that was I think the Steelers. The year before that, it's like I, I just for some reason there's always one team I get wrong. But you know what? I've never picked the Cardinals to be great when they were awful. Just remember that.
That is the interesting part. We've had some very, very bad ones, like when I thought the Commanders would be good and they ended up losing like 10 in a row. Then there was the year that I had the Rams in the Super Bowl, and that one worked out. There's a little bit of everything in between the good and the bad and the ugly that comes with trying to predict things during the preseason, but that is where the fun of it is. So sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. We're going to break down every single team, but today we're going to figure out who's going to be the best in the West. We got the AFC West and the NFC West today. We're going to break down each team's records, how we think they'll get there, take a look at what they did last year. We're going to find ourselves a fun little futures bet for each team as well to see if we can have those come to fruition. So, Kelsey, which one do we want to start with? The bidding is up to you.
I figure we start where the sun sets. We'll start out west if I had to pick one. And so in that case, let's go. You know what? Let's leave the spicy one for later. Let's go with maybe the less competitive of the two, and I'm gonna let you pick which one that is.
Well, I'm going to think that sounds like the AFC West is what it sounds like.
I started thinking about it. I was like, man, I don't know which one is the less competitive of the two as I said that.
All right, well, that's perfect. We will go ahead and start there. And Kelsey, without further ado, I'm going to let you go ahead and break us in as far as the predictions of who you think, what records you think we are going to go with. We're going to take a quick look here. Here's what they finished with last year: the Chiefs running away 15-2, the Chargers 11-6, the Broncos 10-7, and the Raiders 4-13. You can see a weird season for the Chiefs as they had a great win percentage, but not a whole lot of point differential. The Chargers and the Broncos, surprisingly good point differentials, and the Raiders, not so high as we see some of their records. So, Kelsey, go ahead and lead the way from bottom to the top. How do you have this division shaking out?
Yeah, bottom of the top. It actually doesn't look much different to how they finished last year. There is a little shakeup, but not a crazy shakeup. Bottom is the Raiders. However, they did do improve on last year with the addition of Ashton Genty. 5-12 instead of 4-13. They'll go 5-12 is my prediction there. It's still gonna be a rough go of it for the Raiders. They've done a lot of positive, but there's still some holes there that need to be filled. Unless they just come out and outperform everything, I don't know if the Raiders are there yet. Obviously, the addition of Geno seems to be good, but what does that really mean for the team where you lack a true number one receiver? Not that you lack a true number one tight end, but you do lack a true number one receiver. Despite all the positives I talk about Jacoby Myers, when it comes to fantasy football, they don't really have a number one as far as the NFL considers a number one receiver. I think Jacoby can be a perfect number one. TJ Houshmandzadeh has a lot of things similar, so the talent wise between the two of them. TJ was a little bit taller, but that's kind of how I look at Jacoby Myers, which is not really what everybody thinks of as a number one. But obviously, there's young players there. There's a lot of talent. But yeah, the Raiders just not good enough for me to get more than 5 wins this year. They also have the AFC West seems to have a tougher interconference matchup as well.
Interesting. The Raiders, of course, going 0-6 in the division last year, so it's only up from here at this point. You
Yeah,
can only hopefully bounce back.
I did give them 1 win in the division. That's
All
where
right.
the difference comes. So
You know what? They're on the upswing, but all right, how do we have it going next? Now we have the Raiders in the cellar. So do we keep things homeostasis or are we shaking it up?
no, we're shaking it up this time.
Mm.
We're going Chargers at number 3. Only by divisional record are they number 3 because they end up at 10-7.
Ooh, okay.
So still a good year for the Chargers, just not good enough in division. I think this division, inside of its own division, is tough. You obviously have the Chiefs to deal with. You have a young Bo Nix to deal with. Justin Herbert's a tough team to deal with, especially the run game for the Chargers looks to be pretty dangerous. And the Raiders are no slouch. I gave them a win in the division. That means they're no slouch type of thing. But yeah, the Chargers, we still have questions about the receiving core outside of Lad McConkey. What else is there? And that's always the question. How bad is the Najee Harris thing? So we'll have to wait and see. But for me, 10-7 feels pretty safe for the Chargers. Justin Herbert, edge of playoffs, maybe in the playoffs with a 10-7 record. We'll see that later on. But yeah, that's where I have the Chargers at.
All right, moving up along now. We got Raiders, Chargers. So I have a hunch of who's next based on historic events, but I'll let you go ahead and continue.
Yeah, obviously it's the Chiefs at number 1. So the Broncos are at number 2, 10-7. Again, they have the breaker when it comes to divisional record, 4-2 in the division versus the Chargers 2-4. But yeah, I have the Broncos playing really well. Bo Nix is going to play really well. Obviously, they have an overseas game this year. I actually had them winning the overseas game, which is kind of a nice thing. And also, they have a few mini bye weeks throughout the season where they play on a Thursday or play on a Saturday later in the season, and they have a late game the next week. So those obviously always are a big moment for young up and developing players, especially with a coach like Sean Payton. So I gave them a lot of nod there. Plus, their defense still looks fantastic, and that team continues to get better and better. I have them at 10-7, but I honestly feel like there's a possibility this could be higher. When I first did this, I actually had them winning the division, and I took that back because I was like, well, hold on, let's not do this yet. I don't know if they're there yet. But that leads me to number 1. No surprise, the Chiefs. However, I don't have the Chiefs doing as well as they've done in the past few years. I have them only finishing at 12-5, 5-1 in the division, but 12-5 overall. They do have some rough games here. They have again, you go to the Super Bowl, and if you win it or lose it, it doesn't really matter. You still went to the Super Bowl. That means you're going to get a tough schedule when you come in the next year. The Chiefs have that. There's no doubt about that. And that, for me, automatically gives a little bit of a concern, and especially when you consider how well they played and how poor they played at times last season. That's where I think the Chiefs kind of fall off in some ways. So for me, the Chiefs finish at 12-5, top of the division, but second behind them, the Broncos 10-7 with more opportunity. And then Chargers at 3, Raiders at 4.
The Chiefs are very interesting because on the one hand, it's like the chickens should come home to roost. They looked terrible last year, but we look at the record, they were 15-2 with one of those losses coming with Carson Wentz at the helm in week 18 and all the starters on the bench. So it's like there's looks and then there's results. You got to try and balance which one it is. They're a tough one to deal with, that's for sure.
Yeah, also you got to look at that point forward, point against differential. I mean, that's a really close differential when you look at it, especially when you take it across 17 games. 8-0 at home, but you got to think of some of those close games they barely snuck in. I think of the Broncos game, the Broncos game on the road that they managed to sneak out where it was a blocked field goal at the end of the game. That's the difference. And that blocked field goal came after a penalty on the first field goal attempt. That was good. So that's something that you look at, like, can the coin continue to go in that direction again the next year? We saw it with the Vikings a few years ago. Every close game went the Vikings' way, and then the next year, nothing went their way. That's always a concern when you have a team last year like the Chiefs, that they just a lot of close wins. Sure, it means something for your mentality, but does it carry over into the next year? I am less concerned about that with the Chiefs than most teams, but still, I think a three-game difference is where I'm comfortable with that being impactful.
When you've been so unbelievably good, it's almost like 12 wins is almost an insult. They've been that good. We're 12-5 for every other team in the league. It's like, that's about right, or that's darn good. But as our good friend Jason with TSS and that Sports Podcast Network says, so they're dethroned. It is the Chiefs who are going on a decade now. The last time they didn't win the division, Peyton Manning was hoisting a Lombardi trophy. So that's how long it has been. So I'll go and go through my predictions now, and we're going to go from the top to the bottom just to shake up the suspense. Yeah, I got the Chiefs winning the division as well. So we're going to get that one out of the way as well. I have them going 11-6, so a little bit of a step back. 4-2 in the division. I'm giving credit to that division. It will be an upgrade division. Everyone is a lot better, I believe. So we're going to give them 11-6, which is about what they went 2 years ago. But I think they'll look a lot better. I think the Star Wars offense is going to return a little bit. I don't think we're going to see as much of those 16-14 Patty with like 87 passing yard games. I think we're going to see the offense is going to take off a little bit. I think Xavier Worthy is going to break out some. Travis will still be Travis, reliable. 7 yards and a cloud of fur. Not a whole lot of, not taking off from anybody. Rasheed Rice will come back eventually. He'll be great. Marquise Hollywood Brown hopefully won't have his chest caved in the first play of preseason, and we'll get to play this year. Isaiah Pacheco's leg won't be snapped. I just think they're going to offensively, they're going to bounce back and they'll be fine. But I have them 11-6. So we'll go now from the bottom to the top. I just wanted to get the easy one out of the way for fun. But at the bottom of the
Just
division,
for the
I
sake of it, by the way, I just
you
wanted
beat
to
the
throw
man,
that
you
out
beat
there.
the man. Woo! I don't have my voice will crack if I do any better of a woo, so I'm gonna have to cut it. I'm gonna have to cut my woo there. I don't have the Ric Flair gene, unfortunately. But we'll start at the bottom of the division. I actually have Denver going 8-9 at the bottom of the division.
Wow.
Very, very good team. It's a very, very good division. I think we talk about this with sophomore quarterbacks all the time. They tend to take a little bit of a step back off if they have a really good rookie season. I think the playbook is going to start to open up a little bit more. I think Sean Payton's going to start throwing more at him. I think Bozen basically this will be his adjustment season. Then the following season we'll start to see this will be the Auburn side of the Bo Nix experience is what I think we'll see this year. A little bit more of the chaos. The running back situation, I think is going to sort itself out. Receivers outside of Cortland Sutton, I think will sort themselves out. They're still a young team. They're still balancing some things. The offensive line is still going to be awesome. Defensively, I think they're still going to be very, very good. I think some of the things they did last year won't fully repeat down that stretch. I think they snuck up on a lot of people last year, especially down the stretch. They had a lot of matchups where it's like, oh, maybe before the season we thought it was close, but as the season played on, it's like, okay, yeah, they should beat the brakes off that team. They should beat the brakes off that team, so on and so forth. So I think it's going to be very competitive. I think they're just going to struggle in division, honestly. I have them going 1-5 in the division. Last year they were 3-3. Two of those wins were the hapless Raiders, and then one was that Week 18 where the Chiefs had Carson Wentz at quarterback. So I think the way the division shakes out, just a little tougher for Denver, but still 8-9. I'm not going to spoil things too much yet, but that could possibly win you another division. Unfortunately, it won't be this one. But
I wasn't going to say anything, but you remember I did ask you to pick which one of these two conferences we were going to start with, and I said the least competitive, and you said 8-9 as the fourth place team in this division. So
I don't think you used the word competitive. I'm sure you used a different adjective.
I think I said the least competitive of the two conferences, and you.
We're gonna have to rewind the tapes. I don't think you said competitive. I think you used a different adjective there. But
okay, all right.
You know,
I'm intrigued though. I mean, 8-9 to start it out at the bottom. That's crazy.
I think it was more of the least surprising because we already knew who's going to be at the top. I think that's what we were aiming for. What we did the AFC West first, but 8-9 at the bottom, which means number 3 on the list is going to be. I'm gonna have the Raiders going 10-7. When I look at the Raiders, they were terrible last year. That was pretty obvious. There's no surprise there. They had the largest upgraded quarterback in the NFL, besides maybe the Titans. We'll have to see if Cam Ward's better than Will Levis, but I feel pretty safe about that at this point. So I think with Geno Smith, you get an arguable top 12 quarterback when he's not getting assaulted behind Seattle's offensive line. Ashton Genty, we all are pretty comfortable saying he's going to be at minimum good in the NFL. We all feel pretty comfortable with that until proven otherwise. And they had a massive upgrade at head coach with Pete Carroll, not just in results, but experience. He's been doing this for so long. He gets the most out of everybody. Defensively, they're going to be a lot better. They had some really good additions. I like how they brought in guys like Devin White. They brought in, excuse me, Jeremy Chin, different guys like that. The offensive line is going to be a lot better. Jackson Powers Johnson's getting able to play his natural spot. And they had another really, really good draft on top of it. So I think the offseason moves, the upgraded coaching, the upgraded quarterback, they improved in the two most important spots by such a massive amount. I think they're going to be able to recapture a little bit of what they did 2 years ago, where they were weirdly competitive, but now they're going to be able to do, and they're going to get over the hump. So we got the Raiders at 10-7, which will lead me to number 2 in the division, the Chargers, also 10-7. They're going to get 4-2. They're going to get divisional tiebreaker. And I think the offense in there is going to open up a little bit more. They will run the ball. Marion Hampton, Najee Harris, they're going to run the ball. Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, we know the drill. I think offensively, we will see them unleash Justin Herbert just a little bit more. I think we're going to see him get going a little bit more. Keenan Allen coming back just to be the safety blanket checkdown guy. We all love Ladd McConkey. This is a Ladd McConkey podcast, and we will not be told otherwise. I like Trey Harris. I like bringing him in out of Ole Miss. I really like that addition. Their offensive line, this is a division for offensive lines, it feels like, too. We look at, you have the 2 tackles, then they bring in Mekhi Beck on to play guard as well. Like, they're building a wall in front of Justin, and the rest of the AFC West is going to pay for it. So I really like what they're doing in LA. And defensively, probably won't repeat what they did last year, but I still think they'll be more than good enough because I think the offense will be a little bit more prolific. So we're going to have the Chargers number 2 in the division. And as we mentioned, the Chiefs at the top. So to recap it, Chiefs at 11-6, Chargers at 10-7, Raiders third at 10-7, then the Broncos pulling it up at 8-9, and the most competitive division in the NFL.
I like it. That was
no, you don't. You hate it. You hate every second of it. I get tell.
No, you know what? I really don't. I think it's very interesting to see. I have questions with the Chargers. We both picked them as a 10-7 team. I just
not
look
comfortable with it at all, though.
No, I feel like I'm just concerned. Like, You mentioned wide receivers. I thinking like Keandre Lambert Smith out of Auburn is a guy that they've already fallen in love with in camp, and so far in the Hall of Fame game scored a touchdown, and then
He's
if
going to
he
score a
makes the team,
60-yard touchdown this year if he makes it.
yeah,
He's going to get behind somebody, and Justin's going to let it fly.
and that's the crazy thing is this team has a lot of potential boom. They still have Darius Davis on the roster. Let's not forget what he did in college. The dude
And
flies.
the tight ends too, yeah.
But it's like if this team can stay healthy, I think it's a very concerning team. And 10-7 maybe even feels a little low. And we could finally see Justin unlocked. But I mean, how many times have we said the words, we need a big season from Justin Herbert? Like, we need to see him take that step up. I feel like at this point, we're in season 5 of saying those words. And, we've seen him in person. We see the flashes of that brilliance when he was playing against Joe Burrow. Like, it was a fantastic game to go watch between the two young guns. But I haven't seen a lot of consistent from Justin to be a 10-7 team every year. And it's like, maybe they're the Steelers of the West. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's happening here. Maybe they're the team that continues to go 10-7 and they're continue to be bit by the Chargers bug of not making it in the playoffs. This team just confuses me every time. And so, like, I get why we both picked them there. I still don't feel comfortable about it.
The injuries have been the up and down injuries and the up and down coaching. A lot of things around him have been very awkward, and he also hasn't been at his best when they need him to. That last playoff loss is the one that really kills last year, where he kind of unwound once the Texans started going. But at the same time, I feel like the team is built around his skill set right now. It's really coming together in a way that will complement him best. So I'm hoping and expecting it, if they stay healthy, the ultimate Chargers question of all teams, things will start to look good for him. So I feel pretty good about it. I'm not going to pick them to take the division over the Chiefs. Like, we both made that mistake 3 years ago when they had that great offseason. We're like, yeah. And then suddenly everyone gets hurt. It's like, forgot it's the Chargers. Shoot. Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
still the Chargers. Yeah. And you know what? I think I'm less concerned about coaching this time around with the Chargers as I was last year. Like, I felt like, coming in, Harbaugh should be a fine fit with the Chargers. We didn't really know what he was going to do. And then we saw a literal 9-man offensive line at one point in time with a single back under center. And you were like, oh, okay, hold on. This is real Harbaugh time. Like, he's cleats and khakis is coming in hard. So, mix some of that with some of the crazy passing game that they could have. If they can just stay healthy, it'll be very interesting. Also, that defense, how do you react as you lost to Bosa?
Bosa, that was unfortunately very unhealthy, but they did at least keep Khalil Mack. What is interesting with Harbaugh's NFL trend is it feels like when he has the second year with a guy is when we often see them kind of explode. Year 2 with Alex Smith, he was leading the NFL in completion percentage, was like 19 of 20 in the game he got hurt in before Kaepernick came in. Year 2 of Kaepernick, he started the season out with a 420-yard game against the Packers when they brought in Anquan Bolden, and they rode right to the NFC Championship again. So I do think him and Greg Roman, I think, will open up the offense, which we'll see a little bit more of, that's the Justin Herbert from earlier in his career that's lighting up the field. But they'll be able to keep the winning and a lot of those winning aspects that we saw last year as well, the ability to control it on the ground and not put him in uncomfortable spots too often. When his freelancing ability is what I think gets us sometimes. He doesn't freelance as well as some of those other guys, but when things are normal, he's elite. When things are relatively normal, he's as good as anybody. He can still freelance, just not as freaky as like Josh and Lamar and Patty and Joe, those guys.
He reminds me of Matt Ryan in that case. Like, when everything's going right, it goes right. He lights it up. When it's not going right, it's like, this is not great. But it's not bad, but it's not great.
Like, he's a good improviser, but it feels like not those other guys, they become elite at improvising, which is where I think things get a little bit goofy with it.
They also have the different athleticism. Like, let's not forget Justin came in the league with a messed up knee twice. So that's the thing. Like, I think it makes him different from a lot of these other quarterbacks, especially that generation. His legs are less. He's less Josh Allen, and he's more Peyton Manning at times.
They did run QB power for a touchdown with him from the 4-yard line, so he's still got the legs. He still has the ability to score them. But
I take it back. What Tony Romo?
There you go. Maybe like it's a little bit less of a scrambler, but could still be a good runner. Like, he's a weirdly good runner, but you don't love him scrambling as much. That's when things
Baker. I'm just kidding.
Maybe not that chaotic. But so we've gone over the teams. Now we got to talk a little bit about betting. We got some gambling. We got ourselves a futures bet from each team. So Kelcey, you're going to lead the way. Give us a bet for each team, what you're looking at, and how we feel it.
All right, so I'm going to go in the same order of my division. So bottom to the top. I'm starting with the Raiders. Ashton Genty, 1,000-yard season. this is crazy that a rookie has negative odds.
Hmm.
He is odds on to get 1,000 yards this season, minus 220. It is one of my only, actually, it is my only bet on this entire division that is a minus odds bet. That's how crazy it was to see this. I was like, I have to say this. This has to be the one. So Ashton Genty, 1,000 yards rushing, minus 220. And yeah, that's where that goes. And then moving up, I'm going with Justin Herbert, 4,000 plus passing yards, plus 210 to do that. And then Bo Nix, 30 plus passing touchdowns. While you have him regressing, I have him increasing, plus 210 odds for that as well. So still kind of even odds. And this was the one that just shocked me the most. Travis Kelcey, 1,000 regular season receiving yards, 1,000 plus regular season receiving yards, plus 440 odds. He was actually one of the last players optional for, or last player options for 1,000 plus receiving yards. That's crazy thought. Travis Kelcey, the walking 1,000-yard tight end, plus 440 odds.
I get the reasoning. Getting older, last couple of years hasn't really hit it, but at the same time, if the divisions play out like we expect, where they're more competitive, there will be no sitting in week 18, which means he'll have that extra game. And last year, if he plays week 18, he probably hits it. So with those odds, it's tempting, especially if he can go into the season healthy and remain healthy. And if things just open up, like at least I think they will, I think that one's very doable with very plus 440 odds. Like that will do if that hits for sure. That's a nice payday.
Yeah, I figure why not throw it out there, see what happens with the Chiefs. Because with the Chiefs, it's so wild. But the one thing that Patty loves is Travis Kelcey. So given health, given consistency, I think those two, it's not a crazy number for them to hit it. He's hit it before many times in his season. It's just a matter of staying healthy all year and playing all 17 games.
Exactly. So I'll go with my bets now. I'll go from the bottom to the top as well. For the Broncos, I have Cortland Sutton over 1,000 yards. Just got paid. Has been a very good player for his time with the Broncos. I think we really got to see him show it off last year with Bo Nix, and I think that's still going to continue off of the payday. I think he's still clear and far ahead, going to be their best receiver, and I think it won't even really be close. I think he's going to be the focal point at plus 135 to get over 1,000. So I think positive odds to get him over 1,000. I feel real comfortable with that. Next up, we got the Raiders. I'm just taking the low-hanging fruit of over 7.5 wins at plus 145. Even if they go 8-9, that still hits. Even if they're not as good as I think they will be, I still think they will find a way to. Doubling their win total with the upgrades they've had doesn't feel completely astronomical. Let's say I had them. It's not. I didn't. Let's say they struggle in the division. Like I had them 3-3. Let's say they go 1-5. So you take off a couple wins. That's still at the 8-win mark. When you have Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, Ashton Genty, I feel like 8 wins is very doable at plus 145 for them. And they play the AFC South. That is a lot of very winnable games in there, as we will talk about when we get to the South. There's a lot of winnable games for everybody else in there. Chargers, the over-under for Justin Herbert was set at 36.50 at minus 114 for passing yards. I'm like, okay, I think he can get you 36.51 next year. I think that offense opens up a lot, as I mentioned. And in the same vein, Patrick Mahomes over-under set at 4,005 yards. And I think they will be playing all 18. He's gone over that, I think, every year of his career except for last year. I think they'll be playing 18 games next year. So I don't think he'll be sitting in that, or 17 games. I don't think he'll be sitting in week 18. 4,006 passing yards is very much in the Patrick Mahomes wheelhouse, so we're going to take that at minus 114 as well.
Your bets make my bets feel better. Because if you're picking 3,600 plus for Justin Herbert, it's only another 400 yards to get to 4,000. And if Patty's getting over 4,000, Travis is probably on the receiving end of a good chunk of that.
So yours make mine feel good too, because if yours hit, then mine almost certainly have to, especially with Justin Herbert. I don't think it's possible for that one. So let us know down below, everyone in the comments, what some of your bets are you like for the AFC West and what you think of our predictions for how the divisions will shake out. Which one of us is terribly wrong, which one of us is terribly right, and well, they're not that much terribly far different overall. There's just a few minor tweaks here, but if you think someone else can take it from the Chiefs, let us know down below. But we're going to go from the AFC to the NFC, but we are going to stick into the West, as now we're going to go through the NFC West and taking a look at how the division shook out last year. 49ers falling apart, especially down the stretch, losing 4 in a row to end at 6-11. Cardinals, a surprising 8-9. Seattle and the Rams tie at 10-7, but the Rams getting the tiebreaker and heading to the playoffs last year, where they did win a playoff game, and they gave the Eagles hell in the next round more than just about anybody. In the division, 4-2 apiece for Seattle and the Rams. San Francisco 1-5, Arizona 3-3. just a very down year for the 49ers and a very up year for pretty much everybody else. But go from the bottom to the top. We'll go and give my predictions for this one now. I have Seattle at 6-11 at the bottom. There's a lot of things I like about that team, but there's even more I dislike. I think they downgraded a quarterback substantially. We'll see how Sam Darnold bounces back. I mean, I know he's great with Minnesota, but I like what Minnesota has a lot more than what Seattle has as a whole. They need to not let him get assaulted and see ghosts, which has not been their forte the last few years. Defensively, I think they're well on their way. Love JSN as the feature target. Don't know how Cooper Kupp fits in there necessarily. Love K9. Need him to stay healthy. That's the main thing. There's just some questions with Seattle. I think they had a little bit of some downgrades, which I have some concerns about. So I have them at the bottom at 6-11, and what I think will also be a good division. Next up, the Rams at 9-8. When I first did these picks, I wasn't 100% sure about this. Now with Matthew Stafford and that back injury, the epidural, I feel I almost don't know if it'll hit 9 at this point. I'm very concerned about that. Stafford is an old 37, a senior citizen 37 with how much abuse he took in Detroit, especially. Like he's 37 going on 87. Injuries have plagued him a lot. The back is also another one, especially for a quarterback. You're getting blindsided, you're getting hit. That really worries me. I do think last year they started 1-5 or 1-4 before they cranked it up with Puka and Cooper getting healthy and everyone else in the division kind of imploding and not getting going down the stretch. And Seattle's 3-6 at home last year. I don't think that's necessarily going to replicate. So we're gonna say the Rams at 9-8. Slightly above them is the Cardinals, also at 9-8. Both teams going 4-2 in the division, by the way, with Seattle going 1-5. I think the Cardinals get a tiebreaker. Love the fact that they got Will Johnson in the second round to be your corner in a Gannon defense. Love the Walter Nolan pick in the first round. I love what they're doing defensively. They got a lot of young talent in there. Marvin Harrison Jr. I think is going to be even better in year 2. Trey McBride's going to get more than 2 touchdowns before the month of December. Kyler Murray, another year removed from that injury, I think will be a little bit better. James Conner just refuses to go down, and I think Trey Benson gets involved, and the offensive line's a touch better. They made some good additions throughout the offseason, which means at the top, I do have the 49ers bouncing back. I do have them going 12-5. I think defensively, having Robert Saleh back is going to be a huge addition. I do have them going 3-3 in the division, weirdly enough, though. So I do think the Cardinals will be better in division at 4-2, and same with the Rams. But the 49ers will have their answers elsewhere. Brock Purdy was mostly pretty good last year film-wise. The problem was results didn't always match up. He did a lot of good things on tape. The problem is they didn't win a lot of games with it. Brandon Ayuk is going to start the season probably on IR, but I think he'll come back and be able to be strong down the stretch. Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, I think, can fill in the void. I'm not opposed to the idea. I think they will add in Amari Cooper or somebody else just to fill out that receiving room at some point. CMC, I think usually when he has a terrible season due to injuries, he bounces back pretty well the next season. Gets everyone's hopes up, then another injury hits. So we're in that in-between spot of he's back. And then next year when we're all hyped up, he'll get injured again. But right now, he'll be back. George Kittle, the offensive line still worries me a little bit, but I think schematically wise, they'll still be able to figure out enough. Defensively, they're going to be way better. Last year, they're like 28th. I bringing back Robert Saleh and some of the guys they got in on defense. I think they'll be a little bit better. So from the bottom to the top, we'll have Seattle at 6-11, the Rams at 9-8, the Cardinals also at 9-8, and then the 49ers at 12-5 with a bounce back season.
Okay. I don't hate it, man. I really don't.
I will say the last time the 49ers were terrible, the next year they then went to 3 NFC championship games in a row right after that. So this is the Shanahan formula. Be absolutely terrible. Everyone writes you off. The next thing you know, you go on a run.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. No, I have not a lot to say because I'm not terribly different from yours. I'm a little different from yours, but I'm not terribly different from yours. So
I'm
I don't
surprised.
have a
I
lot to
honestly
say.
expected yours to start with the 49ers where mine ended. So I'm surprised. I'm curious now.
Yeah. No. So we'll start at the bottom, work our way up. At the bottom is Matthew Stafford's back and the LA Rams. I need a quarterback, and
Stetson Bennett or Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I don't trust Stetson Bennett at all.
Jimmy Garoppolo's in there. Devonta Adams is going to demand a trade so quickly.
Yeah,
I just realized that too. He's like, you saw the Netflix. Get me out of here.
Yeah, let's not even go down that train. Thank God for Kyron Williams. Thank God for Puka. I think no matter who's playing quarterback, Puka is going to get a lot of burn because he is that safety blanket. Devontae, he doesn't have the same separation ability he once did, which we saw a little bit in New York last year when he was playing. And then, just not able to really separate with the defensive backs like he once was, whereas Puka can still do that. Still, a little concerned with Puka and the injuries. That always is concerning. So with Matthew Stafford's back, as you said, 39 going on 55, 85, 155. Take your pick. It's going to be rough. The defense looks good though, so it's not like they're terrible at the bottom, but they're 8-9 for me. So close to a 500 season, but not good enough to get over that hump. Rams at the bottom. Next up, the Cardinals at 9-8. I do like things the Cardinals do. I do like Kyler fully healthy. I do like their running game. I don't hate their defense. I think there's a lot of positives building with the Cardinals. I think Marvin Harrison looks better, stronger, faster, whatever analogy they always talk about going into training camp looks real with Marvin Harrison. Where you're looking at pictures like that dude's photoshopped. That's where it looks like with him. Obviously, can that translate to a 18-game season? I believe so. That's the whole purpose of putting on that extra weight. Also, I talked about this in the rant with the Cardinals ad nauseum for the last 3 years. If the offensive line is healthy, Kyler will be fine. It's always been when that offensive line is not healthy, Kyler looks like a small child running away from grown men. And that's not necessarily a short joke. That's literally how it looks. But it kind of is a short joke. But no, I think the Cardinals have a lot going for them. It's just a matter of making it work and staying healthy. So I'm not totally sold they stay healthy all season, but I think stays healthy enough to get to 9-8.
And they do have Darius Robinson coming back from injury, who didn't even really get a rookie season last year. So I think that's going to be a big plus too.
Exactly. So moving up one more spot, the Seahawks. 10-7 is where I have the Seahawks. It is because I love K9. It is because I love the addition of Cooper Kupp. Because the last time we saw Cooper Kupp in the state of Washington playing football, he was the best receiver in the world. And I'm talking college football. He loves that state and playing football. He has always been, even when playing with the Rams, he has always been good when playing in Seattle. There's not been very many games in Seattle where you can say he was not the best player on the field for the Rams. So I think playing in Seattle, playing in front of his hometown, or close to hometown, I think is a perfect fit for him. I do like him mixed with Sam Darnold and Jackson JSN. I think those three are a very interesting matchup for opponents. Like Sam Darnold's a wild card. You're either going to get the best football you've ever watched, or you're going to get somebody seeing ghosts, and you're going to be like, oh no. But I think the seeing ghosts is going to be less this year because those two tackles for the Seahawks are so good. They're young, they're talented, and they're going to be fully healthy this year. I think that's a big plus. And I think there's no questions about coaching anymore with this team. You have your answers. You know what your next step forward is. There was times last year where I thought Pete Carroll was just going to walk out the door, or whatever they wanted to do was going to happen. And obviously this year with Pete not being there, it's like it makes sense. This is the Seahawks. This is a brand new Seahawks franchise again, and we're going to see what they can do. But I like the defensive pieces. I think there's a lot of talent there in the DB room. If they can stay healthy, it makes a lot of people should be intimidated. Those DBs match up pretty well with most receivers, as long as healthy. That's the concern. And then DJ, I am copy and pasting your list here. 12-5, 49ers, number one. Because of the same reasons we just talked about. When the 49ers are bad one year, the next year they're good. When CMC is hurt one year, the next year he's healthy. When George Kittle has an off year, the next year he's good. It's the tradition. It is what the 49ers are. It's what they've been, even if you go back to the Steve Rice, Joe Montana days. Not that there were very many down years in that period, but when there was a single down year, aka they just snuck in the playoffs, they came back and won a Super Bowl, or appeared in the Super Bowl, or made it to the NFC championship game. Like, this team is a very interesting team to watch, and I think Shanahan always goes through these peaks and valleys just because he has a system, it works, and then that system gets figured out, and then he has to make the adjustment, and he's not really necessarily an in-season adjuster. He's a postseason adjuster, and I think you see that with this 49ers team. Making a lot of right moves defensively. Offensively, the offensive line does concern me more than a lot of other teams, but you still have a monster left tackle. So, and you still have Kyle Juszczyk, which is the best six-man offensive line, six-man on the offensive line that I think exists in the league right now. Yes, he is a fullback, but fullbacks are people too. And we like them in the offensive lineman room just as much as everybody else. We celebrate their touchdowns more than we celebrate any other touchdowns. But yeah, so 49ers for me, top of the division, 12-5. Seahawks, second in the division, 10-7. Cardinals, third in the division, 9-8. Rams, pulling up the rear, 8-9.
One thing I want to think is interesting too is we're going to talk more about the East when we get to it, but Micah Parsons demanding the trade. I don't think it's going to happen. We both are kind of on the impression, but if it does, I think we talked about 3 teams today that could be very much in the market for it. I look at that Rams team that does have 2 first-round picks. They might be like, make it happen. And Aaron Donald even tweeted, look, if you guys get Micah Parsons, I might come out of retirement. So there's that option. Seattle, if they have the resources and the cap space, I think is an option because Mike McDonald would love to have that with Byron Murphy in the squad on the front line and Leonard Williams. I think the Raiders.
Derek Hall too.
I think the Raiders are also very much involved in it. If they can afford it and make it happen, him and Max Crosby. And then there's the Chargers, because I believe cap space-wise, they have room for it. They'd be able to make it happen if they could provide the resources. Him and Jim Harbaugh will headbutt each other before the game, and Micah Parsons will end up with a concussion with the helmet on. I think that is a match made in heaven, too.
Let's not forget that some way, somehow, we've always seen one of the teams that's top of one of these divisions make moves that just make you scratch your head and say, how'd you guys do that? I'm not talking about the Chiefs this time, but I am definitely talking about the 49ers as a possibility. I know he grew up a Cowboys fan, but man, oh man, he didn't grow up in the 90s Cowboy era. He grew up in the 2000s Cowboys era where the 49ers weren't necessarily a rival. So yeah, 49ers, always a possibility. He can go reverse TO on the world. And that's, I'm just throwing it out there. That's a possibility.
We're both under the impression that he won't be leaving, though, so we'll save that speculation for another time, but thought I'd throw it out there since it. Well, I am, at least. I think we'd be surprised for sure, I would say.
Spoiler alerts.
That requires a lot of draft picks, potential players, and a whole lot of money. That's a whole lot. That'll be a whole lot to get done, but we'll see if anyone does do it. But you want to, before we get into the bets, go and give us a quick recap how you have this division shaken out.
Yeah, so 49ers, 12-5 at the top of the division. Next, we have the Seahawks coming in second, and then the Cardinals in third, and the Rams pulling up the rear of the division at 8-9.
Very competitive West across the board. So now we got to get into the fun part. We're going to talk some finances. We're going to talk betting. We're going to put the futures on the line. So, Kelcey, I'm going to lead the way with this one since you led the way with bets last time. I'm going to start from the bottom to the top again. Seahawks, we both love ourselves some Kenneth Walker III, also affectionately known as K9. His rushing touchdowns is set at 6.5. We're going to take the over at -122. He has had 9 touchdowns and 8 touchdowns, or 9 touchdowns and 7 touchdowns in his 2 seasons so far. If he can or 9, 8, and 7 is what it is in his 3 seasons. As long as he stays relatively healthy, I think he will surpass that. He will find his way into the end zone. The Rams over under 10 wins. We're going to take the under at -165. No other reason than last year they did not hit it. The year before that, I don't think they hit it, and I don't think they'll hit it this year. If they do somehow. If Stafford is fully healthy, I think their ceiling is around 10-ish wins, but that worries me, man. A very old quarterback with a back injury that is not even day-to-day. He is week to week right now. Yeah. It's not even like, hey, he might come back eventually, maybe next week. No, we'll find out. We'll check in every Monday. Like we'll see at that point. I'm not 37, but if my back is hurting like that, I do not need Nick Bosa hitting me from behind twice a year. So we're gonna go under 10.5 wins for the Rams. Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. over under at 975. We're going to take the over -114 because he doesn't hit 1,000 yards in his sophomore campaign with assuming everything is healthy. I'm going to start getting a little bit worried at that point. He was close last year. He was at about 8-something, a very weird rookie season. I think this year they're not going to. I think the target share with him and Trey McBride balances out a little bit. I think him and Kyler connect, hopefully. If they don't, then one of those two is the problem, and I don't know which. With Marvin Harrison Jr.'s skill set, it feels like he has to hit 1,000 yards this year. So we're going to go over 975 for -114. Then the 49ers over under 9.5 wins at -180 since we both have them clearing 10 wins. -9.5 over 9.5 at -180 feels like a very safe bet for a 49ers team that I don't think is going to go 0-4 down the stretch and go 1-5 in the division again. So I feel pretty comfortable with that bet for sure.
Okay. I like them. I think those are safe, relatively safe bets. The Rams one,
50 odds.
I think with Rams, it's like you look at it as as long as Matthew Stafford stays on the questionable list, this is a very safe option to not go over. But Yeah, otherwise, fully healthy, the Rams offense should be good enough. But with
If they're
Stafford being questionable, I don't know.
if they're fully healthy and we get the best Matthew Stafford, I think they will win 10 games, have the division clinched, and then week 18 they will sit everybody like they do the last few years because their team. Sean McVay very much believes in it. Sit them if you can, like he did last year when they just had the tiebreaker over Seattle. They still sat everybody that last week. So
Yeah.
it's tough though. If they're fully healthy, that could be a very dangerous offense. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, but hey, that's a perfect segue into my bets here because, as I said, I'm going to start at the bottom here as well. The Rams. Now, I did originally have Stafford rounds, but the back injury, so that pivoted to Puka, 8+ touchdowns at
Ooh,
plus 170 odds. So
career
not really
high.
a touchdown. Yeah, not really a touchdown guy in his career so far, but he's had to share with Cooper Kupp. I just talked about Devontae not having that extra step. Despite Devontae's ability to get open in the red zone, I think it's going to be Puka this year that's going to get the majority lion's share of those touchdown opportunities. So I'm going on a whim here, which the betting odds say I'm not going too far out on a limb with plus 170 odds to get 8+ touchdowns in the season. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Next up, Arizona. Now, this is one that I think if you've watched any of our shows talking about fantasy football and my opinion on kickers and how kickers are people too, you'll understand this pick. I'm also giving a shout out to our boy, Zach Kyleman, who often had our kicking prop bets when we would do our old Sunday show. And in that honor, I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals to have 1+ field goal good or one. So to score 1+ field goal in every regular season game, plus 1,800 odds.
Ooh, okay.
With that offense, hey, I mean, yeah, they might fizzle out, but there's a kicker there, and they're in a dome half the season. So I feel pretty comfortable with that opportunity. So yeah, give me a shot with that. Why not?
Don't hate it. Don't hate it.
Now, the longest odds of these two divisions is my next one. The Seattle Seahawks. You mentioned K9, his touchdowns. 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns in his career so far. Well, he's going to play a big part in this one, and that is the Seahawks to score 1+ rushing touchdown in every regular season game this season. Plus 16,000 odds. This is the longest one of the group. This is one I say be very careful with. If you decide to do it, please bet responsibly. Don't bet
Might
anything.
be the longest one of the series at this point.
Yeah,
I
really,
good
it
luck
will be.
passing that.
It is one of those season specials. But you know what? I've been nothing more than a person who always has those long shots, is the best way to put it. The coin flip, if you will. This could go really good or this could go really bad.
It's either going to be over week 1 or you're going to get to week 18 and get really annoyed when they just don't run in the end zone and keep kicking field goals inside the 5.
But look, hey, we talked about this before the show. Between Charbonnet and K9, I feel like there's a great opportunity between just those two. But the good thing is this is anybody scoring a rushing touchdown, which means JSN, which means Cooper Kupp end around, which means Sam Darnold, which means any fat offensive lineman they want to bring in and score a touchdown, any tight end doing a quarterback sneak. I don't care.
Jalen Milroe.
I'll take my chances. Yeah, Jalen Milroe package, the Milroe tank or whatever you want to call it. Like, let's do that. I don't care. I think there's a great opportunity for this one to happen. So plus 16,000 odds. Hey, if the odds change and they get worse, that's not my fault. I just put you guys on some game. For $1, I can make a heck of a lot of money. That's all I'm saying. Last but not least, the 49ers. More reasonable bet this time. 49ers to beat the Rams in both games this season.
Ooh.
Plus 250. So both home and away, they beat the Rams this year in the regular season. Plus 250 odds. Again, I have the 49ers taking the top of the division. Rams at the bottom of my division. It makes sense for the way I picked the divisions. So, that's where I'm at with that.
That's very interesting, and I will say Kyle Shanahan does have a 10-6 record against Sean McVay career-wise and historically, so he normally does get the better of those matchups, so that's an additional one. That rushing touchdown one's interesting because on paper it makes so much sense, but there will be 1 week, and it'll be in the back end of the season when they just either get inside the 5 and kick field goals or Sam throws 5 touchdowns just randomly. Maybe it's when they're playing in California against the Rams. They just don't run one in, and it's gonna spite you at it. They're gonna get it 17 out of 18 weeks. Or 16 out of 17 opportunities guaranteed. But
Hey,
I definitely like
don't bet crazy with that. That's when you put $1 on, you call it swell, and you just sit there and watch it happen.
You're not betting to change your life with this one. You are betting to have a very good day.
I'm betting to at the end of the regular season come back on here with a screenshot and say, I told you 24 weeks ago that you should have made this futures bet.
Assuming that's not the only one that hits, of course. That might be the only one that with your luck, it'll be the only one that hits, but the only one that matters.
I've even talked about a negative odds here, and I am still talking about the one that I want to hit the most, being the plus 16,000, just because I think it would be really cool. But it's also something that doesn't feel unreasonable. Like if there are a lot of these future bets that just feel like, no, that's not gonna happen. Like every team scoring a touchdown this season, or a touchdown being scored in every single regular season game in the NFL this year. I'm like, no. We've seen it where there are games that are 15-12 that are nothing but field goals. You get some of these overseas games, especially. I don't know if those are going to translate well when it comes to those type of games. So, yeah, I'm taking my chances here. See what's going to happen.
Your futures bets are going to go 1-31, but that's going to be the one. All these other ones will let you down, but that one, that's going to be the money.
And I am not parlaying them together whatsoever.
I don't even think they'll let you at this point. And if they do, my goodness. But that's what we have for our bets for the NFC West and our predictions for how the AFC and the NFC West will shake out. We both have these same division winners at the top and then different second places and a little bit goofier after that. But this is only part one in our summer series countdown to opening day kickoff. We will go the South, the East, and then the North, followed by our final episode, which will be playoff predictions, award winners, and who we think will be hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, which will be right before the day of kickoff. It's one of our favorite traditions on the show every year. We are just getting started. And of course, don't forget to tune in. We will also be live streaming our fantasy football draft a little bit later on this month as well, the same one we did last year. We'll both be on the Belly Up Fantasy Live football draft on August 19th, so keep an eye on the Belly Up Sports YouTube for that. And we will also be having some other streams as well, some from the Fantasy Football Expo this coming week. So if you are listening to this before the 8th, 9th, or 10th, then definitely be sure to check us out there. We'll be there with a handful of other Belly Up.
I want to say, if you're listening to it and you're there on the 8th, 9th, and 10th, come swing by. We have a booth. It's not far. Check us out.
That'll be especially for the 10th when we have the booth for sure. So definitely come swing by for that. Say hi. Love to meet you all. And of course, feel free to let us know what you think about our predictions, our bets, and let us know how you think about fantasies. We got a lot of stuff going on for the rest of the month. We're excited to have you all listen and come along for the ride with us. If it's your first time for our summer series, welcome aboard. It only gets better from here. If you're a regular, well, you already know the drill. This is nothing new at this point, but we're excited to have you all join us.
The heat's just getting turned up here.
If you're a regular, then you already know, fasten your seatbelts because here we go. But that is going to do it for this very first episode breaking down the West. We appreciate y'all for joining us so much, and we're going to see you all again next week.